Hello neighbor, I'm Robert Burns of Sound Off, Louisiana, and it is such a pleasure to come and to visit with you again. We're going to do a brief little follow-up on the presentation that we gave you last time. Many of you will recall me introducing Mr. Billy Broussard. He is a contractor who's standing a bit to my immediate left, and we focused on the fact that he had done a considerable amount of debris cleanup in the aftermath of Hurricane Rita, for which he was not compensated for. And I briefly alluded to in that video that he had gone through the trial court level, the appeals court level, and even on to the state Supreme Court. And I want to focus in on a few things that transpired in these various court proceedings. And you know, as many of you know, I tend to spend an awful lot of time in courtrooms, and I report on what goes on in those courtroom proceedings. Obviously, I was not in these court proceedings, but fortunately, Mr. Broussard has gone to the time and the expense of getting transcripts of these proceedings. So to some extent, it's a little bit like we actually were there. And I'm going to today bring to the highlight what I find some very interesting commentary by the state district judge who oversaw this case, and that was Judge Ritchie over in Lake Charles. Now, let me just first of all say you were represented by legal counsel as this matter transpired. Is that correct?
Yes.
Would you mind sharing with our viewing audience exactly who your legal counsel was?
At the very beginning was Jeff Landry, also Robin Sylvester, but it was Jeff Landry, which is now our Attorney General.
All right, and at the time he was representing you, he was just a private citizen, correct? He was not U.S. Congressman at the time? All right.
Prior.
All right, so this was prior to Jeff Landry having became a U.S. Congressman. And I want to, bearing in mind that that is who was representing Mr. Broussard, I'm going to bring you just this little small captioned highlighted text of some commentary that Judge Ritchie made about Mr. Broussard supposedly bullying, and I'm quoting here, you can see it in front of the camera, and we're going to give you a direct link to this page of this transcript in the court proceedings, but you can see it right there in front of the camera, where Judge Ritchie has said, you know, bully your way with them by filing this lien illegally. So I guess there was a little bit of unspoken commentary about our current Attorney General's legal capabilities, and subsequently it went a little further than that, and we will give you a link for this part of the transcript as well. This is page 118. We'll give you a link for this page as well. And I'm going to put it up in front of you. You can see this is where it says the court. That would be Judge Ritchie. And I'm going to give you just a second to look at it, and then I'm going to pull it back and we're going to read it. And it says, let me tell you something. You caused all these problems. Broussard, well, because I didn't get paid. And said, you filed a $1.2 million lien against the gravity drainage, thinking that's how you were going to get your money, and it backfired on you. And we have Mr. Broussard. That was Jeff Landry that did that. I didn't file that lien. Jeff Landry and Robin Sylvester filed that lien. And now it's my understanding it was filed illegally. Well, you just had the judge himself saying that it was filed illegally. And so the court, well, the lawyers did that? The lawyers you hired did that? Yes, they did. They did it on your behalf. Then we have the court down here. Skip down to the bottom. There is a commercial out there that says, choose your lawyer carefully. Maybe you should have. Mr. Broussard, well, maybe the state should too. Okay, well, the state has been, you know, Broussard. The thing is, you know, he's running for the state attorney general. I guess we will, and then he's kind of cut off there, and well, I'm not going to cast any aspersions. And then Broussard said the court did say he filed it illegally. We showed you to that moments ago. I mean, it just shows how. And so I just find it very interesting, the less than subtle characterization of Judge Ritchie's commentary with regard to what is arguably the most prominent law enforcement official we have in this state now. And let me just say this, we're going to reach out to Attorney General Landry, give him the opportunity to give his side of these, whether you want to consider them pop shots or whatever, give his side of the story on this, and to make the statement of whether he would deem himself to have illegally filed a lien. But I'm going to let Mr. Broussard just say a word or two about that whole experience in the courtroom that day, and then I'm going to kind of let you know what's going to be in store for our third sound off feature, because I think you're going to find that very interesting as well. I want to just say one last thing. It has now become readily apparent that there is an ungodly number of elected officials and some appointed officials who have been in meetings to try to get to the bottom of what happened here, to get what happened resolved. And I'm talking about from the very highest level, and that would include Governor John Bell Edwards, during which I'm told, now I was not in the meeting, so I'm going to ask Mr. Broussard to confirm this, but Governor Edwards said, get this man what he's looking for in terms of records. Am I correct on that?
Right. There was a meeting with that I was told by the Chief of Staff, Mr. Rochelle, that he said there was a meeting with him and the governor and Jim Wascom, which is now the director of GOSAP, and the governor asked him, are you all aware of Mr. Broussard? He said, yes, we are. There's a public records request, and he said, get him everything that you can. And since then, I've been provided about 30 times the documents that they originally provided me, even though I have to say it was the prior administration in that regards.
Okay, and so it would be interesting, though, that you have the top official of this state, and nobody's going to argue that the most powerful person in Louisiana is the governor. It's been that way for a long time. And yet, I've already shown you, we showed you in the last episode, an injunction issued trying to keep him from getting those very same records. Now, as I said, this man has had hearings, he's had meetings with some awfully high officials, both at the U.S. congressional level and certainly at the state level. And it'll be interesting as we delve further into this to reveal what all has transpired in this. But I do want to just say one quick thing about an upcoming episode that we'll do, and then I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Broussard to kind of make some closing commentary that he might deem fit. But I do want to say this, in the last episode, we talked to you about Rusty Stutes, the attorney for the Gravity District, saying that, well, gee, if you don't back off these public records requests, I will report you to the FBI. Now, as he said, that letter was sent out in early 2015 prior to Governor Edwards being elected governor. So now you have the governor saying, get this man what he wants. But in that letter, you have Mr. Stutes saying, if you don't back off these public records requests, I'm going to turn over the fraud that he wants to allege that Mr. Broussard committed over to the FBI. And what I have found in delving into this case is there's an awful lot of people that are talking about going to the FBI. But I'm just going to point out one thing. There's one person who got to the FBI, and you're looking at him. And we're going to provide you with a state police report that will detail the fact that the gentleman standing over to my left here provided the state police with a thumb drive of extensive documentation of some activities that took place during this entire episode. And the state police report then said that all of this was provided to an FBI agent by the name of Atwell. Am I correct?
Yes, yes,
all
sir.
right. And I'm going to let you just finish that part up because you have the integral knowledge of this. I'm going to let you kind of finish from there as to what you uncovered from that, as what you have come to subsequently become aware of, and then I'll step back in and conclude the wrap. So you tell us about this whole business of turning over the thumb drive to state police and what you soon found out thereafter.
Yes. I turned over the information to the state police. The state police then said they turned it over to a agent with the FBI in the Lake Charles office of Mr. Atwell. And Mr. Atwell had then relayed this information to a Assistant U.S. Attorney General, Mr. Rick Willis. I spoke to Mr. Rick Willis last week, and he tells me there is no FBI agent in the Lake Charles office by the name of Mr. Atwell. So I find it very strange that a detective with the state police that's supposedly doing an investigation in regards to FEMA fraud that I reported, state and FEMA fraud, because this is GOSAP, which is Governor's Office of Homeland Security, and then FEMA. And the detective is claiming that he provided this information to a Mr. Atwell, and there's no Mr. Atwell. So I guess there's some individuals that may be able to answer some questions to that. I also want to say I've been accused through this court and through these attorneys that I've committed fraud, and there's no proof that I committed fraud because I did not commit any fraud. And I really hope that Attorney General reaches out and answers some questions that we have for him in regards to the court accusing him of illegally filing the lien. I personally don't believe Jeff Landry illegally filed the lien. I don't believe any of us on my side of the defense committed any type of fraud or illegal activity. But that's what the court is claiming, that he did something illegal. So hopefully he can answer those questions, and I'm sure he would defend himself on that.
And as I said, we are going to reach out to Attorney General Landry's office. Look, all I did was read what's in the court record. You know, I don't make these things up. I never do. I try to pride myself on being able to back up anything that I have said, and this is official court transcripts, okay? So, you know, I didn't just sit down and start typing away on a keyboard to manufacture what got said in these court hearings. They are what they are, and the judge has said that, well, your attorney illegally filed a lien, and it just so happens that his attorney was Jeff Landry, private citizen Jeff Landry at the time, but now our current Attorney General. So we will reach out if we are successful in having either Attorney General Landry or one of his designated representatives to agree to appear on camera and present their side of the story very briefly, or they can have as much time as they want. I'm certainly not going to cut out the video. You know, we will certainly provide you with that as a trailer on this particular video. If not, I'll just write a caption on the screen that Attorney General Jeff Landry's office declined to comment on the matter. So with that, Mr. Broussard, I want to thank you for the time you've taken out today to come and for us to continue to kind of explore through this mountain and find out just what all happened here. And I'll wrap this thing up and reiterating the same thing that I said at the end of the first video. Be very, very careful whenever you receive representations from these governmental entities that may purport that, hey, we have the authority to say you can do this. You know, a lot of times when push comes to shove, they get very convenient memories in that regard. I don't know if that's what happened here. I just know that an awful lot of high-level government officials have had meetings with this gentleman to try to see if something can be done. Still going to have to delve into what all happened here. I don't know whether he may have prescription problems or other issues, but I do know there are some bizarre things that took place in this whole episode. This restraining order, the injunction, threat that I'll report you to the FBI if you don't back off of these public records requests, and now we've just presented you with a judge having some none too flattering commentary on our current Attorney General. So thank you so much for taking the time to view this sound-off video. We look forward to bringing you our next episode in the very near future. Hope everyone had an enjoyable Mardi Gras, and thank you once again. We look forward to seeing you again real soon. Thank you so much.